Yes, good morning to everyone listening to the sound of my voice. I am your host for today's Shakeup Radio program, Augustine Ferdinand. Today being the second day of the second month in 2023. I am your host, Augustine Ferdinand. It's now 25 minutes to the hour of 11 o'clock here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. As usual, I want to send greetings to those of you who are listening abroad in the diaspora in the US of A and Canada. Greetings to our Council Journal in Canada, Mr. Fitzhuggins, also Luther in New York. Greetings to those of you in the United Kingdom and across the continent of Europe, or many students around the world. Good morning, afternoon, or good night, depending on the time zone in that particular country. Greetings to those of you who are joining us via Star FM, and a special morning to the staff of Star. A special morning also to Gensec, Minister Francis, Elson, and Garns, Tammy, Marvin, West Kingston, Joy, Miss Richards at the shop. Those of you who are locked on in the comfort of your homes or glued on social media via WEFM 99.9 Facebook page, or simply driving to and from your destination this blessed morning. Just a while ago, I understand that it was raining a bit on the outside. Pleasant morning to you once again. As usual, it's an interactive program, and numbers to call and get interactive with us here in studio of WEFM are 784-457-9997. That's 784-457-9997. And you can call or send us messages on the WhatsApp number 784-457-9994. That's 784-457-9994. Well, today's program, I want us to zero in on fisheries and agriculture and fisheries, where we are going. I listened, it was last week, I believe. Also had Minister Caesar, and persons who know by now that there are many meetings being held across St. Vincent and the Grenadines with officials from the Ministry of Agriculture and the minister himself, basically trying to shed light also on a lot of issues being experienced by farmers, but also in preparing farmers or letting farmers know the avenues that are available for them in developing their own business. The minister said recently that all farmers and fishers have to see themselves as businessmen and women. And that is something I've echoed many times here on Shakeup Radio program in lifting our game. And I always mention that the mere fact we have many of these hotels that are being constructed across St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you will surely see an uptick in the demand for produce by those hotels. And therefore, in order for us to capitalize on that market that is being created in the economy here, facilitated by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we therefore have to get ourselves ready. And in getting ourselves ready, we have to do things different. And therefore, that's the discussion I want us, or conversation I want us to have on the program here this morning, a conversation, and let us know what direction you think is best. Let us know what you also think of the government's policy in moving forward. One of the major issues, of course, predial larceny, that many farmers have complained about, and the government, the administration, is clamping down on that. I'm quite sure persons saw even last year of few cases where persons were arrested and charged. So that's the discussion I want us to have here this morning because it's vital. Just a few days ago, I mentioned what we see inside our supermarkets that's locally grown, locally made, or packaged here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And the reason why I want us to have that conversation and discussion, I recently read an article in particular by the leader, well, by the NDP, it's NDP View. And it says here that the government needs to do more to develop the blue economy. And it started out, of course, this is from a speech by the leader of the opposition. And it says here that it is clear the main thrust, and I don't even know why they spell just like that, but hey, the main thrust of the government is developing a fishing industry which falls under the Solidarity Fishing Fleet Program because of a sum of $4.4 million allocated to it. And it goes on to say the government's plan for the development of the fishing fleet in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is to be done almost exclusively under this program because that is where the real money is going towards. And it says that the fishermen have to go and find the rest of the money themselves to go and invest and to buy. Well, I don't believe it's the leader of the opposition who wrote this, man. And to satisfy the criteria set by the financial institution to qualify for the loan. And he goes on lower down in saying that the 4 million will go towards Solidarity Fishing Fleet and will address the challenges to supply that we will begin having because there's so much demand from rainforest food with the facility in Beckway and the facility in Oyo and new hotels being built. We have to demand for fish growing faster than the number of fishermen. And the crux of the issue, I think the opposition now, what he is saying, he goes on to say that basically what the government is doing in terms of assisting in the financial arrangements. Of course, we have the credit facility. We also plan to purchase vessels. He said that it ought to be rethought and that the government has to start from the proposition that the industry goes forward with the fisher folk and that you must have an organic development of the fisher folk in the industry and not just you have an export problem that is created. This is the problem I always have with the leader of the opposition. He is all over the place, and clearly it seems as though it appears to me that it says excerpts from the Honorable Godwin Friday's 2023 budget presentation. It's so all over the place. But basically, he has an issue, and it's not the first time he raised that issue. I remember last year, he basically had an issue with the credit facility in the agreement between the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and KCCU. He said here that the government's plan for the fishing industry is wrong-headed and that it sidelines the existing fisher folk and those who might follow in the usual way and fails to take into account most important component of the development process, and that is the people who are in the industry. Well, I clearly don't see where he's coming from with that. The fisher folk have always been engaged. But one thing I'm happy about in all of this is that in his own speech, I'm talking about the leader of the opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday, he said here, and this shows you that there are no things happening. He said that the blue economy is, of course, reaching a new phase, basically, more or less, in what is happening in St. Vincent and Grenadines in terms of the fishing sector. And there's another recording that I have here will show you likewise that the NDP know that a lot is taking place in the blue economy. So where I saw from the headline, the government needs to do a lot more. The government is starting carrying us to that new phase in our own development in terms of fisheries and agriculture. And like I said a few days back, that for the opposition, his plan in terms of carrying the blue economy forward is first creating a ministry of the blue economy. And they have it here, saying that they will create a new ministry of fisheries and marine conservation. But the discussion is important. The discussion is very important given what we are seeing across St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I mentioned this week that the work on Barley Fisheries Center started. Of course, that is to be processing facility. Clearly, we have seen over the few years an uptick or increase in terms of fish landings here in St. Vincent and Grenadines, again, because of the government's policy in terms of the fisheries centers. We've also seen increase in terms of the exportation of livestock out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and also in terms of different commodities pertaining to root crops and the like being exported out of St. Vincent and Grenadines. And you can, of course, see that especially on a Sunday when the truckloads of produce going down to Port Kingston. So that is why, ladies and gentlemen, I often have an issue or a problem. I remember a caller a few days back called in and said that, the banana industry, we need to bring that back. Again, the mindset, some persons still thinking that banana industry is agriculture. But agriculture itself is beyond bananas. You're talking about different commodities that are grown here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, whether for local consumption or for exports. But given what is taking place, we can't operate the same. We have to change how we do things. And therefore, I think it's important for us to understand that part and have that conversation and discussion. The Minister of Finance last year gave a picture as to where fisheries itself is going, or where the blue economy in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is going. And I remember he went into some specifics at the opening of Rainforest Seafood processing facility and calling on fisher folks and preparing themselves. So let's listen to the Minister of Finance on the growth of the fishery sector.
I want to talk a little bit briefly about fish and about the growth areas in seafood in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In 2012, this is now with my Minister of Finance hat on. In 2012 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we landed $8.9 million worth of fish. This is EC dollars. And by 2020, so from 2012 to 2020, we had landed $21.5 million worth of fish. That's before Rainforest got here. But it was showing a trajectory for the growth of fish and fisheries and seafood in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Because it's not many industries that I could brag about as a Minister of Finance or that Saboto could brag about as a Minister of Agriculture. To say that between 2012 and 2020, you've grown 125%. You've more than doubled. But seafood is one of those areas. And this facility, they say 6 months, but really they've been fully up. Well, they're still not fully operational, but they've been going strong for about 4 months. At this facility, they have purchased seafood from 150 local fishers.
Yeah.
And in those 4 to 6 months, they've already paid to those local fishers over 3 million EC dollars.
Yeah. And I remember hearing some folks on our radio program late last month, saying that because they hardly see persons going or heavy traffic going to the Kalakwa Fisheries Center, that we are lying to the people about the work going on there. That's a lot of money. But the figures provided by the Minister of Finance on over 100% growth in terms of value of seafood, 2012, 2020 onwards, shows the potential that exists and where the Unity Labour Party government is taking the blue economy here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It is for that reason why we've had significant amount of support, production support. I talk about the lobster pots that the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries provided to those who are interested and who want to be trained in making the lobster pots themselves and also the catching of lobster. Because one thing you know is that with hotel development, there's the significant demand for lobsters. That's one thing you do know for sure. And of course, I know there are persons who have the concern while saying, what about overfishing? St. Vincent and Grenadines, we have lobster season and the like. That is why there's policy surrounding that. Yeah, of course, the adults or the mothers, you don't catch them once they have eggs and the like. It's seasonal, and that is why, given the seasonal part of it, you have to increase your storage capacity in order for you to catch and store, because you cannot therefore catch when it's out of season. Yeah. But again, the growth potential is significant. And if we are talking about the growth of the blue economy, we can't remain the same with the same mindset. We can't go out to fish, let's say 4 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning and come back the same day. You have to change that mindset. Hence, the government is talking about the purchasing of vessels. And it's not just pirogues. I remember the leader of the opposition say, well, we're talking about the fishing fleet expansion with pirogues. But even as he highlighted here, the very own article of the government's willingness in having the allocation of over $4 million to purchase large vessels, significant. And the Minister of Agriculture stood up in Parliament recently and spoke about the need to not only purchase, but to have persons trained in the operationalization of those vessels. And obviously, with larger vessels, you are able to spend longer on our territorial waters, whether it may be the economic zone or even inside the Z, or go as far as possibly high seas, if that's possible. But the most important part is you now have to spend longer on the water so that you can increase your catchment or your landing, so to speak. Because I'm telling you, the demand from all these investments are going to jump in terms of seafood, and we have to prepare ourselves for it. Have to prepare ourselves for it. And I heard the leader of the opposition. He said that for the NDP, not only in creating a ministry for the blue economy is vital, in their eyes, but also to have a development bank so that credit would be available, or monies would be available, not credit, but just monies would be available to facilitate the expansion of fishing fleet. But as you may be wondering, well, where this development bank money will come from? Well, you may guess right if you are saying possibly from the sale of passport, and we all know what is happening with that now. And I remember the leader of the opposition talked about that during a meeting at Rose Place, and where he talked about well, what the government plan is doing and the like. So let's listen to, yes, the third one. Yes, leader of the opposition. Okay, I guess just use the other one. All right, let me see. Okay. All right.
The fisher folk of this country can drive the economy of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. There is tremendous potential there. I believe in every single one of them. I want them to have that capacity to produce and to decide how to spend that money for themselves. They don't have to go and sign on to a government boat as a laborer, as a deckhand. And then when the government say they finish with it, they're going to lease it back to you at some point down the road. That is our money they take in to do that with. I say empower the fisher folk. Those fellows who are out there and they need to get bigger boats, find a way to help them to get it. We propose this, It seems so sensible and so simple. Yet, I don't understand why it is this present administration is trying to find more difficult ways to solve this problem. What we have said is that you have to provide capital, whether it's through a development bank or some other means, so that the fisher folk can purchase the bigger boats that they need. What do? They say that they're going to bring in some pirogues from Trinidad or wherever else. And then Colombia. I told a friend of mine down in Myra, I said, listen, this is the government plan. They're going to have these open boats coming and you could borrow $70,000 to go and buy one. The man almost cried. He said, Friday, what are these guys going with this? The fishermen and then Mr. Harry would tell you, by the time you get round the rock, your eyes red, your clothes wet, you soak, you're cold, you're ready to come back. But you have to go out to find some fish to make a living for your family. So what we need is to upgrade our fleet. We have to upgrade our fleet, but in the hands of the fisher folk.
You see, and that is what the leader of the opposition is happening. And he said it here in his article as well. He said that it must be retaught. Like I said, the government is investing significant amount of money, over $4 million, in terms of the fishing fleet expansion. You know, even the leader of the opposition said that what they have to do is increase and upgrade the fishing fleet. And that is what the government is doing. We've been talking about that even before the leader of the opposition mentioned that. It's just that he believes, one, and this is where we differ on policy, that there must be the establishment of a Ministry of the Fisheries to begin with, to talk about upgrading or building a blue economy. Two, that he believes we need a development bank to provide monies to fisher folks, and that his idea of the development bank is for it to be financed through the sale of passports, and we know where that is going. And he also criticized the government's partnership with Kingston Cooperative Credit Union in terms of the partial guarantee credit to allow fisher folks to be able to purchase their own vessels, where the government, of course, put in a deposit already to assist fisher folks in securing a loan to purchase a vessel. Of course, I see that as helping two ways. One, in building our own local credit institutions to begin with. And this is why I am often taken aback by the leader of the opposition, because he's saying that you need a development bank financed by the sale of passports to allow persons to purchase their own vessels. And you heard him said in the same breath, and even in this article, he said that the fishers must be included. Yeah, he said that they must be engaged. They must not be excluded. So if the government is saying that, look, we know it will be difficult for you to secure a loan on your own in purchasing a vessel, and we are helping you by putting down a deposit to make it better or easier for you to access that credit. Isn't that including the fisher folk into the discussion and helping the local fisher folk? Isn't that it? Because he said here, the government is now going to own a fishing fleet, and they're going to be the most advanced part of the fishing industry, and the rest of the fisher folk are going to continue to do their business in pirogues. But the thing is, we are assisting you in getting larger vessels with that credit facility. We're not sidelining fisher folks. Whether it may be with larger vessels, larger engines, we're not excluding you. So I don't know where the opposition leader was going with that. And here's other critique. He has no problem with the government having a development bank, because he's saying if the NDP was to be elected, they'll have a development bank, of course, financed by the sale of passports. But he has a problem with the government purchasing large vessels, training persons to man or operate those vessels and catch seafood, of course. But at the same time, he has no problem with the state having a development bank and competing with institutions like KCCU and GECO. Because his thing is, government should not be involved at all in the ownership of any vessels or taking the lead. But if you are trying to change the cultural practice in terms of fishing, well, the government is taking the lead in showing fishers that these are the standards that we want you to reach. Yeah? And it doesn't take away from the fact that at the same time, while you are operating on a vessel owned by the state, it doesn't exclude anyone from buying their own vessel and taking advantage of the opportunity with the arrangement that we have with KCCU. It doesn't. So it may just well be a case again of the opposition seeing that a lot is happening with the takeoff of the blue economy and want to try and see how you can malign the initiative or turn people away from the initiative. But it's the same opposition, ladies and gentlemen, that will tell you we need jobs and that the government is doing nothing to create jobs. So you may think, you may sit and wonder, well, on one hand, you have a problem with the government trying to create jobs, saying that we're purchasing vessels, we're training persons to man them, operate them. We want to have persons staying longer on the sea. We want to have larger catchments and landings. But you say government not creating jobs for people. So which is it? And that is why some persons, oftentimes they get confused with the things that the NDP say. Because they say government needs to provide jobs, but also criticizing when government is doing something to provide jobs. But it goes back again to the point that we have to change how we do things. The Minister of Finance in his own budget speech this year, well, last month in particular, already mentioned that, and we heard it in the recording, rainforest food, and that was another initiative, another project that I remember even Colin Graham was opposing at the time, because he was saying, well, look, calico fisheries, they're nearby, and the government doing nothing about it and helping the fishers, nothing for the local man, but look, we have big investment there. But when you have a particular investor purchasing over 750,000 pounds of seafood, 750,000 pounds of seafood from 150 local fisher folk. I mean, that alone says a lot. Injecting over $14 million into the local economy. That's a lot. 150 local fisher, because the arrangement that the government and Rainforest Seafood made is that, look, you have the facility, of course, you set up the investment or the plant, you deal with the packaging, the processing, the cleaning, and the like, but let our local fisher folks be the one to engage in the catching of seafood. Not you, but our local fish folks, so that they too can eat piece of the pie and benefit from it. And that is why the government is making the move, because again, the significant demand by these investments in the country for seafood. And in order for our fisher folks or people to capitalize on these investments, we have to lift our game. We have to change our mindset. We have to change certain practices. We have to retrain persons if need be. We have to do that. Again, other than the purchasing of vessels, you have and the partial credit guarantee loan. You also have under the VEP initiative or VEP project over $3 million to upgrade fishery centers. $3 million. And you have fishery center in Chateaubelair, you have in Oya, and you have in Calico. Very important. And again, just as what we've seen before, with these being operated, whether by entities, cooperatives, or the like. That's the government's policy. So it's no surprise that we've seen a significant increase in the value in terms of landings of seafood. And that is why I keep hitting the point home that you can't say, let us simply go back to the days of bananas. The Prime Minister said time and time again, we have to build a modern, competitive, post-colonial economy without preferences that is national, regional, and global. And therefore, in building a modern, competitive economy, you cannot operate the same as you did 2 decades ago. You can't say, let us simply focus on bananas, or you can't say, let us simply focus on planting, or you can't say, let us simply focus on cocoa. You have to have the economy firing off different cylinders in this day and age that we live. We have a vast sea space And we have to capitalize on that resource which we have. The NDP is saying that, look, the only how you can do it is first having a ministry for the blue economy by itself and have a development bank financed by the sale of passports to move the blue economy forward. The Unity Labour Party, we are saying, well, first off, citizenship is not for sale, and therefore this whole, well, many persons know under the NDP what happened to the development bank. The Minister of Finance stood up in Parliament recently, and even last year as well. He went over it. I saw the document myself. When some persons mentioned, well, you know, Grenada have a development bank. But reality, when you look at the portfolio of Grenada's development bank, most of it goes towards financing of education, studies. The Unity Labour Party is saying, look, one, we have to advance our fleet. We have to train our people. We have to rethink how we do things. And important, we have to make sure that our local fisher folk can also get credit for those who want to purchase larger vessels. And we'll help them do that by depositing some monies as well to help them secure that loan. Very important. And while doing that, you do it with a local institution, which also helps to build that institution, the KCCU. And we know how important credit unions are to our economy. Very important. So if you can build them solid, it helps you, the average man. Because the more money they get, of course, the more money they can lend. And it's possible that the interest rates can also be lower for you. Make it attractive for you to borrow. So while the leader of the opposition says, man, this thing with KCCU is nonsense. No, it benefits all of us. You have, I mentioned the blackfish processing facility in Barley. Again, significant. And that is why, for those persons who may have difficulty, how you're writing a business plan and they're like, you're going to CD. Because there are persons who have business ideas, but don't know how to put together a business plan. Going to CD, get some training. In agriculture itself, you have support even in terms of seeds that are distributed. In the budget 2023, Minister of Finance mentioned $7 million allocated even towards securing of fish landing equipment and purchasing refrigerated truck, etc., for the transport of seafood. We are taking things, when we said lifting SVG higher, we mean it. Taking things to the next level. It's not just talk, but action behind what we say. And even the leader of the opposition recognized that. He recognized it. Because of the movements that are taking place in the country. You have, even with the international airport, making it even more possible now. That is why rainforest seafood here, you know. I remember it's about Truth of Blessed Memory. When he was interviewed, and he said the first time he came, he landed at Iti Joshua, and he was wondering, well, how on earth he'll get seafood out? Because again, if you don't have the direct flight to the niche market that you're looking to export, it increases your cost as a business person. transportation costs, and of course it will increase the cost of the product itself, because that therefore has to be passed on to the persons on the receiving end. So for him, he was wondering, how on earth am I going to get this out to where I want it to go? And he was so happy when we have the international airport, because now it can go directly. There are persons I know, after the completion of Argyle International in 2017, there are persons I know who started buying seafood from local fisher folk, fillet them, package and freeze them for export out of St. Vincent and Grenadines. Persons I know, they invested in deep freeze. They package and label them for export and make a killing. The opportunities that the government is creating for the average man and woman in St. Vincent and Grenadines. We don't just say it, we mean it, and we show how we mean it. So the growth potential, and we're ramping things up in the fishery sector. Not just with pirogues, but with the purchasing of large vessels. With that $4.4 million. Creating jobs for people, very important. I know there are some young persons who are interested, who are trained. Even with the lobster, catching of lobster and how you make lobster pots. Significant. And this Solidarity Fishing Fleet Expansion Program will change the game entirely, because the government will therefore show other fisher folks the standards where we need to be. Leading the charge. Very important. Where we need to be. It cannot only be wake up at 3 o'clock, go to say net, trade out, see how much fish you could catch, then you come in before midday. You sell some fish, you may go around in a community, sell some fish, call it a day, collect some money, pay the other boatmen. That is it. Lifting the thing higher would require you to change, move away from just the traditional. And that is why, with these larger vessels, still longer on the sea, you catch more, you employ more, and you make more money. You take advantage of the vast sea space and marine space that we have. Take advantage of that. Our economic zone. And in terms of agriculture, well, we see what is happening. Not only in terms of seedling distribution and subsidization of fertilizers. Many farmers who are engaged in different meetings hear what the government is planning to do in lifting the thing even higher. You have expansion in even cocoa. You have medical cannabis. You have more persons engaged in planting. Opportunities that are there to capitalize on, because again, the demand by these hotels will be great. Tomatoes, lettuce, modern technique in how we grow things. You have over 41 persons already, and more than that, who applied for loans from KCCU, whether it may be pirogues, small size vessels, or the like, because they see the opportunities that are available for them, which the opposition himself has criticized, saying when we're talking about having persons applying to KCCU, why we have that, why we don't just have a development bank finance with the sale of passports. Well, those persons, those applicants, those persons who also receive loan financing, they see the opportunity and capitalize on it. Let's take this call. Good morning, call. Welcome to Shakeup.
Yeah, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
My name is Mark Lowley. You're on a very, very great subject.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Mark. Good morning.
Yeah, I just want to comment a little bit on your new program there regarding the fishing fleet expansion and KCCU commitment to the program. And I personally have been dealing with it on a regular basis. And I think the credit union that they're dealing with is well aligned to serve the purpose that they're mandated to do. So I don't see why anyone in the country should object to that situation. And I feel, as you say, there are a tremendous amount of people already applied, looking forward to approval. And as you know, I'm not a government organization. My business is an NGO, but we support the fishing industry astronomically. And I just want to let all the fishing folks out there know, supporting the government on this and supporting the minister and committed to everything that they have in place. And we're also, as a business, an entity that serves the fishing folks tremendously. We're ramping up. And as you know, this type of fishing requires a tremendous amount of new equipment.
Indeed.
And different types of gear. And it's a massive investment that we as a company embarked upon. We have the capability today, within 7 to 14 days, to completely outfit any one of the small trawlers, any pirogue or anything. So I just wanted to let you know that. And we look for people and sensitizing the public, because it's a very important aspect of our life here in St. Vincent.
Yes, man.
So you continue your program, and thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, man. Thank you very much for your call.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes,
Have a nice day. Okay.
Yes, there's Mr. Lolly. Of course, everyone knows he's integrally involved in fishing. Even maybe making sure that persons get different gears, equipment, etc. Again, the opportunities that are there, and the government, of course, allocating an additional $500,000 to unlock the additional $3.3 million worth of credit for applicants for this year. And again, there are applicants who have applied not only just small pirogues, but even mid-sized vessels. That's significant. So when I heard the leader of the opposition go down the line saying, well, the government talking about this credit facility, and why had them go through that? Why not just have a development bank? And of course, the development bank may finance by the sale of passport. No. Because you do two things. You build the KCCU as a financial institution in providing credit. And also you assist the average man in getting the credit that they need or the financing that they need to realize their own dream and their business potential. But the important part of it is that we have to start to see ourselves as business people, not just somebody trying to make a living. And that is the point the Minister of Agriculture also made recently. And let's hear the Minister on the need for fishers and farmers also to take business.
We have in our country 10,000 registered farmers. We have approximately 2,000 registered fishers. What we're going to do in 2023 is to ensure that by year end, we have 12,000 small businesses, because as a farmer, as a food producer, as a fisher, you are a businessman. Do you have a receipt book? Do you have a notebook where you are writing down the amount of money that you spent for fertilizer? Can you tell the ministry, or can you, for your own accounting purposes, would you be able to, at the end of the year, say how much you spent on farm workers? And we are going to work with the Farmers Support Company this year, and I noted this in my budget address, that one of the roles that the Farmers Support Company will be playing this year is to work with the farmers and the fishers to ensure that they operate in a business-like environment. You have to count your costs, and we are going to work with you so that we can get what may seem as something small. You have to get it right. I want to encourage our consumers in this country that when you go to the supermarkets, look out for the locally produced goods. It's one thing to grow it. Without your support, without your love, they would not be able to get the markets that they see, the markets that are possible. And the supermarkets will be able to support the local farmers more when they realize that when local goods go on the shelves, that the local goods are moving and moving quickly.
Yeah. Have to think business. 10,000 of them. Have to think business. And that alone tells you that for those who have been saying the agricultural sector is dead, well, I don't know how you can have over 10,000 persons in a dead sector. Again, I said on an earlier program that whatever the NDP says, it doesn't match reality. You know, for those persons who want to call in and make the contribution, I remind you the number is 457-9997 and the WhatsApp number 457-9994. But I mean, hearing just that you have over 10,000 persons engaged in that sector. And then you may listen to the opposition or someone in the NDP and say that the agricultural sector is dead. Well, I don't know, again, how we can have 10,000 people in a dead sector. I don't know. Maybe someone could explain that. I really don't know. Just as those who may say that the fishery sector is dead, but if the fishery sector is dead, then again, I don't know how you can have over 150 persons already who are benefiting from the investment by Rainforest Seafood in providing seafood to that facility with a massive injection in the economy of over $14 million and selling them over 700,000 pounds of seafood. I really don't know. So that's why I always make the point that what you often hear from the opposition doesn't match reality. And I always say, I don't come here and tell you no lies. I don't do that. This program is all about the truth. We have our conversations, we have our discussions, we keep it clean, we keep it nice, but always with the truth. But one of the other things, because I remember the NDP was harping on they said that the government neglected the Oya Fisheries Center. Now, we all know the Oya Fisheries Center was operationalized before the eruptions of last summer. I really don't know how the opposition could then think that you can have a fisheries center operationalized either during or even immediately after volcanic eruptions. But like I mentioned, that monies will be available this year for the upgrade of that fisheries facility. And again, I remember having built that facility, there was a particular journalist, now deceased, who went there and took some photos and said, well, nothing happening there. When in reality, I remember the agriculture minister stood up in parliament in response to a question by a former senator in the NDP, who also made it seem as though nothing going on there. But the minister quoted the figures that over $50,000 a month of produce being sold there, and the amount of persons also who are working in that facility. So again, always the NDP come with something, but it doesn't match reality. But even with agriculture, we spent a good while talking about fisheries. Even with agriculture, there are many things that are happening in St. Vincent and Grenadines. So we'll take the break, we'll pay some bills, and then resume with this discussion.
Nice, it's locally made, affordable price, Lord, up to $3 retail. When you see we lining with the red and white case, show me what you lighting. It's cigarette from Empire, Holdings Limited. It's cigarette from Empire, Holdings Limited, with over 60 years experience. Hold the best tobacco, best ingredients. Yeah. This is your boy Lou to say, support local, buy your cigarettes from Empire Holdings Limited. 10 cigarettes in a pack for up to $3 retail. Remember, smoking is not for minors.
Boy, that's where you getting crashing up. Your brakes real good, boy.
Now brakes alone good enough. My tires good too.
Tires? Where you get them tires, boy?
Out by Caribbean Tire Plus, man. They out in Addersville. Can't miss it. Look for the orange container on them. Plenty parking space and open 7 days a week all thing, man. Monday to Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And on Sundays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Call them today. Caribbean Tire Plus, 784-432-4786 or email ctiresplus@gmail.com.
Every girl loves curves. Curves is a girl's closest friend. When life throws you a fast curve, count on Curves for ultra confidence, ultra comfort for that time of the month. Curves ultra thin with wings, Curves regular maxi with wings, and Curves overnight maxi with wings. Super absorbent, best quality and value for money. Every girl loves Curves.
Agents and distributor. Better Brands Distributors.
Our tourism-approved services are invaluable, and our tourism-approved accommodations, vehicle rentals, taxis, tour guides, and tour operators are all treasured parts of our destination's product. We are working with our service providers to remain resilient and ready to serve Vincentians and visitors alike. We urge you, in turn, to play your part by practicing the protocols from our health officials. Always look for a valid tourism service license, and be sure to only use tourism approved. A message from the SVG Tourism Authority. St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's a whole new world out there. Reaching new customers and getting products faster. That's what it's all about. Ocean freight rates are skyrocketing, so don't pay more for slower service. It's time to switch to faster, more reliable air cargo service with SkyMax Cargo. Up to 3 flights weekly to and from the USA, Puerto Rico, and the Caribbean islands. Providing excellent import, export, and e-commerce solutions to put you ahead of the competition. For special low rates on small packages and air cargo, contact SkyMax today. 784-456-5400. Local agents SwiftPack Interprime Cargo. Call 784-456-5400 to book your shipments today.
99.9, the heart and soul of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. WEFM is SVG.
So yes, we are back in studio of WEFM. I am your host, Augustine Ferdinand. Remember the numbers to call and interact with us are 784-457-9997. Let's take this caller. That's 784-457-9997. Good morning, call. Welcome to Shakeup.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Ferdinand.
Good
I'm
morning.
going to refer you back to the discussion you had yesterday, just for a while, but it's also to correct the name that I knew was being said, but I couldn't remember it yesterday. It's not perestroika. That yacht was not perestroika. That was connected to the Otley Hall. It was the Estranka.
Yes.
Just give me a moment. I had to go back. I didn't remember it, but I had to go back. This article appears in the ULP Building a Better SDG, small booklet they brought out, 2001 to 2010. Remember the Estranka? The opposition would hope that you forget. This rusting, decrepit, unseaworthy vessel took the previous government for a 200 million boat ride. An Italian man named Alderola tricked the previous government into valuing the Estranka for the whopping US 18 million, even though the insurers, Lloyd's of London, had refused to insure that vessel anymore because it was not seaworthy. This piece of junk then became the basis to borrow US 50 million to build the Otley Hall Marina. When the dust cleared, the previous government owed nearly 180 million to build a marina that was only worth only 16 million. It took the ULP administration to negotiate massive debt relief with the Italian creditors, saving SDG 150 million and rescuing us from the disastrous mistakes of the previous administration. I went back in my book to find the article.
Yes. It's amazing, huh? I tell you.
Absolutely amazing.
And that is the political party today that will come and try to tell people about good governance and accountability and every other thing else. Really amazing.
Do they still, and you were discussing the fisheries this morning, do they still, they update something in the fisheries complex in Beckwith? Do they use it in Beckwith?
Yes, they do. They do. There's a private company that uses that facility.
I see. And this is another little question. Beckwith at Soufriere, visitors, had the trail been cleared and visitors are allowed to go back up there?
Well, I know Nemo continue to advise against parcels going there because the loose soil material. But I know that some clearing has been done, and there are parcels who travel up to Soufriere.
Okay then, thank you.
All right, no problem. Yes, the Estranka. I don't know why Perestroika came to be. Perestroika is a policy that was formulated by Mikhail Gorbachev. But let us take this call. Good morning, call. Welcome to Shakeup.
Good morning, Mr. Ferdinand.
Hey, Jano, good morning.
How are you doing?
I good, man. I good.
All right, Mr. Ferdinand, you were talking about the opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday.
Yes.
In saying that about the boat, and he said that the government shouldn't he was complaining.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Ferdinand, by now, we should get accustomed to the leader of the opposition and policies and programs of this country led by Dr. Isaac and the Unity Labour Party. By now, we should know by now that from 2001, the opposition never, ever give the right away to do nothing good intending to underground it. And you know that really happened, Mr. Ferdinand, is when I hear the opposition coming on telling you, put them there. Put me there. and we better. Better? Vincent better wake up and smell the coffee, eh? Vincent better wake up and smell the coffee. Because the opposition in St. Vincent right now, they have nothing off, good to offer St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And Mr. Ferdinand, you know, one of the things that really shocked me sometimes. Name me one of the members of the opposition that ever take down in government office, in government thing before. Name me one.
None of them.
If you name me one of the opposition members that ever deal with government issue and government program, then I will stop call over this registration. But none of them in the opposition ever have experience about government in this country. None of them. So when I hear the opposition saying that put me there, he wants to be the prime minister. He wants to take over from Dr. Gunter. Vincent, let me say to you all, leadership is what matters.
Mm-hmm.
Let me repeat myself again. Leadership is what matters. You can't put anybody to lead a country. Dr. Friday is not a leader. He's not a leader. Because, listen to me now. If Dr. Friday was a leader, all this supplement that I have been hearing from the members of the opposition, he is the leader of the opposition, and he cannot open up his mouth and say to anyone, the member, you're wrong, you're going wrong. Because I didn't Mr. Ferdinand, when I hear Miss Young, and the reason why I brought her name to after, because I really want to know if really the people of the constituency that she want to represent. And when I hear she stand up in parliament and said, nothing has been done over the last 22 years. And the time about it, her leader right there, sit down. Her leader, Dr. Friday is right there sitting down and listen to her speech. And he was not having business to say, no, you're wrong.
Well, I don't expect, John, I don't expect the leader of the opposition to correct any of his members. Look, the mere fact that a few months ago, when the leader of the opposition said he's going to lead by example, take his vaccine, and thing, his other colleagues and basically didn't bother with him. One, he stood up in parliament and said he understood the need to have persons speaking from behind the booth because they're unvaccinated and for safety measures, safety of everyone. And they simply stood up and said, well, basically, I ain't talking behind the booth. So it's basically, you could say whatever you want. You could talk about you showing an example by taking vaccine, but I ain't doing that. So if it's something as that, I mean, I do expect nothing else really and truly from the leader of the opposition. I do expect
but Mr. Ferdinand, you have to be very careful. If you want to be the prime minister, if you want to take over from a man like Dr. Gunter, who knows all about government issue, if you want to take over, you have to be better by far. And that is what I've been calling up and been saying. Leadership is what matters.
Yes, leadership matters.
Leadership is what matters because if such a big chance, Dr. Fraser was the Prime Minister of this country from since 2001 till now. Well, Jesus have a massive on top of intention. I don't know what happened to intention. I don't know what happened to this beautiful country of our own. And that is why I was begging for intention every single day. Make sure when the election come and gone that we don't make the wrong mistake. We don't make the wrong person to put there. We have to sit down and think about the leadership.
Yes.
And that's what going to happen for farming that leadership from 2001.
Yes, Jano.
So again, we might ever be born for wherever the shadow. They'll never be born for wherever the shadow. And then God makes us
blessings. For those who are looking to call in, you can call straight to via 457-9997. That's 457-9997, or the WhatsApp number 457-9994. I saw a question here. If someone is overseas, how they can start up a business? Well, one, if it's a large business investment, you can contact, of course, Invest SVG. They primarily deal with large investments for persons living abroad. Also, you want to familiarize yourself with CIPO, commercial intellectual property, in terms of one, registering that business or your company and the like to get started off the ground, and also familiarize yourself with the different tax codes, also different exemptions that are available, and that is why investors which you would walk it through that in terms of exemptions, that in terms of taxes or even concessions that may be available or afforded to you based on the size or magnitude and type of investment that you have. So Invest SVG is the place to contact, and you also familiarize yourself with CIPO. But very important points there. Leadership matters. I know someone was trying to call in on WhatsApp, so you can call again 457-9994. That's 457-9994 on WhatsApp number. Someone said, "Hi, it's good to buy local, but oftentimes local is much more expensive." Well, I will tell you this, my dear sister, and Ariston Denny could attest to this. It was Monday? Yes, Monday, no, on the weekend. I simply, and I think more vendors are getting around the idea. I buy all my produce from vendors, those inside the markets, everything. The cabbage, yam, potato, carrots, tomato, my sweet peppers, everything. Yeah, and I fairly spent about 50 something, close to $60 in local produce, and all of those things I bought, including plantain, and I think it was reasonable price. Everything one time. So I would always urge persons to support local, and that's downtown market. I bought those, and of course on the Christmas time, I got my coals as well. I'm a ham lover, so to the back of downtown market, there was a particular lady selling coals, and I bought. I couldn't get by the sack, so I had to buy by the bag. So yeah, I know there are persons who say, sometimes the local is expensive, but really and truly, for what I got, I would say it was fairly reasonable for what I got. One of the things I was inquiring recently, I love watermelons, and I don't really like the imported ones. I don't know, maybe it's the orange color because they seedless or what have you. But I was asking someone the other day where or not can I get local watermelons because I really want. So yeah, you go around. One of the things I said on the program is that the beauty of having vendors inside the markets is that no longer you have to walk from, let's say, Sicky Graves on the outside all the way down to Randy to basically see or bargain for produce that you would want. You know, now you can either stay at Uptown Market, walk around with a bag, take up and help support local. You can go in the vegetable market, the central vegetable market, and do that, or you simply go at downtown market itself, you know, and support our local people. Trust me, you get a word, you get value for what you're basically purchasing. But talking of agriculture and produce, like I said, agriculture isn't only bananas. Yeah. Agriculture involves different commodities. Recently, I talk about adding value to what we grow, which is very important. It's very significant that we do that. But you have many other things that are taking place in the agricultural sector, even in terms of root crop, even in terms of medical cannabis. Yeah, medical cannabis is part of agriculture. And there are over 100 and I think 20 persons who are involved in the medical cannabis sector. You have also many persons who I know received prime grants. A good portion of them are involved in agro-processing, and that component is basically adding value to what you grow. So you would have persons who engage in the making of peppers and seasoning, packaging sweet peppers, labeling sweet peppers as well, filling seafood, and I mentioned that earlier. Persons who sent in invoice for deep freeze, and they see a market opportunity to fillet seafood and freeze and package and label. Yes, all that. You have many persons who applied for prime grants and involved in all these things. Again, the government, for those who, you know, you hear the opposition say, well, you know, the government not creating opportunities, the government not creating jobs for people. But all these things I mentioned here are opportunities that the government is creating. Of course, agriculture remains an important pillar in our economy, despite our, in terms of our GDP makeup, a bulk of it is in the service-based sector. But either way, we have to eat. And like I said, it's good, all well and good if we can eat local. But the Prime Minister had some important figures he provided recently to agricultural farmers as to, you know, what makeup of our economy and how important the agricultural sector is. So let's hear PM Gonzalez. Yes.
A lot of that we eat ourselves in our homes, but that has value. You don't necessarily count it, but it has value. What we sell in the market in town and about the countryside, what we sell to the restaurants and the hotels, and what we sell overseas, principally Trinidad, Barbados, and OECS countries. And to produce the amount of value in agriculture and to increase that extent of production, we need to have everybody working together and not quarreling over things, quarreling with one another about things we should not be doing, quarreling, but to work sensibly to see how we can improve what we have and increase value. Agriculture, nevertheless, remains an important pillar. Out of every $100 of value produced in the economy, that is to say, you take tourism, transportation, health services, administration, services, financial services, everything, fishing, the like. Agriculture provides about $8 out of every $100 in wealth created. There was a time when it provided more than $8 out of every 100, but it did not mean that you had necessarily a larger amount of money.
Yeah. Of course, we have to up our game, and the importance of agriculture to our economy is very significant. Of course, because of COVID-19, we had extensive amount of support to farmers. Persons, of course, would know that we've paid out income support, especially we had one-off payments for all farmers and fishers, and then we had monthly payments to farmers and fishers in red and orange zones since 2020, the last year. Of course, that for those who receive monthly, had over 5,000 of them, almost half, basically half of all registered farmers. And then because of that, some facilities were affected, including the biotech facility at Orange Hill. Of course, you had at Belmont, Owe, and the like. The Minister of Agriculture made the announcements, I think, late last year, that there are certain plans that will be used now, given our new initiative in exporting produce. These would act as areas where farmers can bring their produce to sell over for export. So that's something that will be ramped up, of course, this year. And that is why we have to basically prepare ourselves for these opportunities again that are created, and therefore think of things differently. Of course, we have the tractor support services, as I mentioned, and where these are used on gently sloping, you have those hand tractors that you use for sloping or steep areas, and you have the other tractor services that you use on flat lands or large lands in particular. You also have seedling support initiative to farmers. The support that we've provided to farmers amount to basically over 19 million, close to $20 million. That is extensive in terms of income support. We also provided, I think was the middle of last year, over $850,000 to our road farmers for the produce, of course, that they harvested, and to compensate them. We spent also close to $6 million in terms of love box, and that also assisted farmers because, again, where things were difficult for persons and also for farmers, government, the state purchased from the farmers and redistribute to those who were vulnerable and in need. And we basically distributed over 400,000 pounds of produce. So again, for those who in the opposition say that agriculture is dead, I don't know how on earth you can purchase over 400,000 pounds of produce in a dead agricultural sector. But of course, going forward, you have more water tanks to be distributed to farmers, more livestock, more farm tools, like I said, hand tillers or tractors. You have lobster pot support. I mentioned subsidies in terms of fertilizers, and you expect more to come throughout this year. And again, we have to capitalize on these initiatives that are being taken in building not only our blue economy, but also our agricultural sector, because trust me, ladies and gentlemen, the demand for produce will jump significantly, and therefore we have to position ourselves for these opportunities that are being created in this country, facilitated by the Unity Labour Party government. And therefore we need to position ourselves, see ourselves as small business people, and operate as a business so that we can't say we didn't know about the opportunities and we get left behind. Yeah. With that, thank you for listening. Thank you for calling in. Those of you who, of course, comment online, Ansel, my cousin D, Ronald, Doreen, Faye, Miss Huggins. You have Kenisha Nanton. I think it's the first time I'm seeing you on here. And all those who are locked on and listening, do take care and have a safe and blessed afternoon. Of course, tomorrow I'll be done. We'll wrap up the entire week. We'll have a wonderful time tomorrow because there's a lot that we have to discuss. Take care, stay blessed, and have a safe afternoon.
The flavor nice, it's locally made.